happen now. Something happen now. Something happen now. Give it up for Mania, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so long story short, I've been kind of falling off as far as performances go after nationals went down. I was like, poetry, job, and $700 worth of child support a month and 2 divorces. I just decided the job was probably a better way to go. So I haven't been putting a whole lot of time into the craft lately, but I have been trying to at least do myself the justice of not repeating old work. Because they've been heard, they've been done, everybody knows them. I'm tired of getting requests for the same old shit. So I'm trying to read things I'm not comfortable with, things that have never been heard before or have only been heard by people who were hanging around when I was recording the albums that have been 6 years in the making. So that's kind of where we are. I did, however, for the sake of, since this is the only place I can get anymore with my 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. days, I've decided that I wasn't going to do all of them about my most recent divorce, which kind of sucks. So I grabbed a couple and I'll just go at random. This ought to be fun. So I'm fully open for critique on all of these because, like I said, some of them have never been heard before. We'll go from there. This is a girl called Wolf, and it is hopefully one of these days will be on the Window Panes album if I ever get it finished. Nice. If. His address was homeless. In a time when displacement was an adjective, if his position on life could have been lost or found, it would have been on the outskirts of effort or underachieving. His hourglass was an alleyway littered with unsung sorrow, swollen, stretching stitches of sanity so young sown, so often shown how little he really was. Wouldn't you be? Devastated. He hopes you will never go unanswered. Even if you are out of bounds, broken, barely a bruise of suggestion, he wants you to breathe like your lungs owe you an explanation, because he remembers so many things. So many moments of himself estranged, pale stroking December like joking like January was a neverland, never man enough to take his own life back then. Her face was like porcupine to the touch. He never would have guessed cause and effect could spill so much vengeance. Her cheeks must have been stainless steel something. Her eyes were autopsy rain clouds. Whenever they would try to speak, it wouldn't sound so much like conversation. Once the mood set in, killing me softly is so easy to do, he said. Calling his bluff, she replied, "Don't be stupid." She was too proud to let him know. He could never seem to manage letting himself go. That's where her grip came into the picture. Get a life was often a lie he told to his mirrored morning. Maybe living less would be more lucrative with this lady friend. She was the days he would spend on an empty stomach. She was the sweat he tasted in his tear ducts when they were bone dry. Even when he wanted to die, she was all he knew. Especially when he didn't know any better. He was never any better than that back then. Most of his friends would say he should leave her for a fresh start. He would call them jealous, pretend they just wanted her body for themselves. Deep down he knew any of them would kiss hell before letting her into their homes. They didn't condone her company. They warned him about the dangers of unprotected sex, and he would always reflect his own insecurities by throwing their cautions to the wind. He couldn't wait to be alone with her again, where they could just violently play spin the bottle, begging this revolver to bring its bullet back, to play Russian bully with his brain. She was the game he would play against life.
Take me there, boy.
She was the void he learned not to feel. She was the anesthesia for all the things that resembled the real world. He didn't want her. She was his burning lust. He didn't love her. She was his aching thrust, serving where once he simply stabbed in the dark. She was the dream he never had, and never had, and never had, because he never had to sleep when she was around. She was the floor he woke up on every time they fucked too hard. She was the shirt he bleached because the bloodstains were too impossible to hide. She kept him sober. If ever his ghost were to wander into a bar after dark, he never drank back then. But he always looked so fucking thirsty. This isn't a dirty secret anymore. This isn't just a story most of us never want to have to tell their kids. This is the truth that is born when an address is homeless. Whenever time uses displacement as an adjective, when he was lingering between lost and found, on the outskirts of effort or underachieving, she wasn't his lover. She wasn't even his whore. She was simply his drug of choice, and once he learned how to undress her, he could only call her a cocaine addiction. Two years of cocaine and now I have allergies. Crazy. It just happens that way. Alright, I don't even know where to start with this one. Shit. Yeah, fuck that. Failure, 2009. This is one of the ones that led to my divorce. Yay! So I tried to keep it out of theme, but hey, fuck it. I guess it should come as no surprise that I'm still no better at being anything than I've ever been. Irony is an evil ankle weight. When I'm trying my damnedest to tread water, futility is a familiar echo. In my ambitions' empty pockets, I'm a poor boy. My features failure is no far cry from home even now, when it's not half the hell I used to crawl back to after midnight. At the base of my hand, there is a branded butterfly my inner fool once thought would mean something, but purpose is one thing the soul can't define loosely. Regardless of what you see, the fact that I'm still alive is an accident. I guess I didn't end it right, because my third eye's hindsight seems to remember when the skin of my chin French kissed the business end of a shotgun while my fearless thumb fucked the trigger. That was the night God proved he was bigger than my death wish. Okay, people say life's a bitch, but they never stop her from breathing. Just like my suicide attempts still haven't stopped me from bleeding from time to time. The doctor said my broken mind wouldn't mend on its own, but I never cared enough. I've learned that the loopholes of a good bluff disguise themselves as the facts that will always be there to face off and over your morning vanity. I learned that insanity is not something you can lie to. It's the truth about yourself that you just haven't learned to cope with yet. Maybe that's why I'll never forget how much I'm not. Regardless of how much I grow into being something more, I'm still no better at being anything than I've ever been. Here we go again. Watch Mania. He's about to stick his neck out for an act of good nature. Watch how the walls of his card house come crashing down when he forgets to put on a poker face. Funny how life can teach you to refine your tastes. How you can learn to smell the beauty of honesty but never really become numb to the pain of truth. Every time people try to swallow what I am, I eventually find them choking on the splinters. I guess I'm bad with sandpaper in that way.
Wow.
I guess I never learned how to fill a spoon with sugar. All I know is that the medicine never goes down easy when it's my turn to play good guy. I'm not strong enough not to play goodbye anymore, but don't think for a second I've learned to avoid my first love. Her name was Failure. She's not a kissing cousin I can run from. She's a blind date with fate, playing freeze tag on the sun, so I still haven't begun to build resistance. Forgiveness is a forbidden fruit with a sour face and a false pretense between its peels, so I am what I was, and that is whatever I feel, because I'm still no better at being anything than I've ever been.
Yeah.